Well, you know, coming up in just a few weeks here, it's the World Championship of Fishing, of course, the Academy Sports and Outdoors Bassmaster Classic. Once again, at fantastic Lake Hartwell in South Carolina. And usually, Ronnie Moore, we have to wait until that event to announce where and when it's going to be in the next year. But I think we're authorized to spill the beans right now. Where is the Classic going to be in 23?
Well, we enjoyed it. We've been there before, once before, though, for the Classic. Knoxville, Tennessee, that's where we'll be in 2023, late March. And that Knoxville area, not only is it a great sports town, man, it is a great bass fishing town. We saw that right there on the shores of Fort Loudon and Tellico, the start of the Tennessee River. We got to see it in 2021 for the Elite Series. We got to see it in 2019 for the Classic. I'm excited for 2023.
When you think of all those crowds there at Volunteer Landing in the morning, in cold weather, 7,500 people out there, that's all you need to say to get people to understand how intense these folks are about the Classic in that part of the country.
Not to mention the takeoffs were packed, the weigh-ins were packed, the expo was crazy. It was very, very awesome to see a new town get to host the Classic and really take advantage of it. It was a great opportunity. But when it comes to the water, Tommy, March 24th through the 26th, it's a little later than we've been. The Classic, we were there before, was about 10 days prior to that, but we did have a crazy influx of rain, so it was very, very high up in the streets of Knoxville, and then it got sucked down by the river system, and it ended up being low during the event, below full pool. This time around, probably a little bit more stable weather in 2023, late March, that allows that winter weather to kind of get out of there another 10 days or so. I'm very excited for what the fishing will be because we got to see all smallmouth in 2021 for the Elite, late February. Gustafson won that one. Very impressive. We got to see some giant largemouth show up as those guys try to track him down. So I think we'll see a little bit of both come late March.
2019, we saw a few good ones, and they had potential to catch a lot of good ones. The last day kind of fooled some of the anglers a little bit, but all in all, it's superbly entertaining. So who should we keep our eyes? I mean, it's from a year and a half away, Ronnie Moore. Who should we be looking out for?
Well, we don't have anybody qualified yet, so I can assume that some guys will qualify, but I think some of those guys who did well in both events, and that's easy to say, Ronnie. Of course, the guys who did well in both events, but it was very hard to duplicate that success. We got to see maybe a Brandon Lester. That's not close to his home necessarily. He's in Tennessee, doesn't fish this area of Tennessee much, but he knows the current aspect. And that's the one thing. When you're picking your team, you're not picking it for the Tennessee River. You're picking it for two different bodies of water who act totally different. Fort Loudon and Tellico. Fort Loudon flows down through past Knoxville. It gets down to the bottom and it splits off. That's where Tellico flows in. Totally different places. Normally when you have rain and whatnot, 0 to 3 foot of clarity on Fort Loudon, because that is basically main river the whole entire way. It is fed by Lake Cherokee and Douglas, so obviously those two rivers coming together, totally different watercolors as well. Current is the X factor, but one thing for late March, the creeks warm up much faster on Fort Loudon than maybe they do in Tellico, and that is because Tellico is much clearer. It's also fed by those mountain streams and little rivers that dump in off the mountains of North Carolina and Tennessee. Deep smallmouth though, so we're going to see a little smallmouth, a little bit of largemouth and spotted bass probably, and we'll see anglers in both parts of this body of water to try to win.
Absolutely should be great. March 24th, 25th, and 26th. Knoxville, Tennessee, Volunteer Landing for the takeoff every day. Thompson Bowling Arena, that iconic venue, again, is going to be the place for the weigh-ins. We'll also have the expo, the Knoxville Convention Center and the World's Fair Exhibition Hall for the expo. So all the elements will be there in a great town. It should be a great challenge for all these guys. World Championship's supposed to be that way.
Hey, it's a great sports town. We mentioned it. The fishing community showed up big time, but hey, they're going to be hosting NCAA, college basketball tournament games just a few weeks earlier in March. So don't lose that competitive spirit, Knoxville. You can just transition it from hoops into bass fishing and see some big bass weighed in Thompson Bowling Arena.
All right. So now you know Knoxville's the place in 23.